to the first installment of my Black Ops 3 boot camp. For those of you who watched my videos before, you know me as the Dungeon Master, but I've decided to kind of branch out a little bit and do some how-to videos on some of my favorite games. This obviously is Black Ops 3. It's been out for a little while and it's pretty popular. Of course, it's Call of Duty, but still. It's still growing in popularity every day. I'm seeing more and more newbies jumping on servers all the time. And all I ever hear, over the chat headset is people, downing the new guys and telling them, "Oh, you need to back out," and just giving them crap. So that's mainly why I decided, to make this video. Just kind of to help the newbies out and teach them, the how-tos of how to up your game, so to speak. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm not gonna take the game online because my bandwidth isn't all that, um, but I'm gonna basically just run through a couple of maps show you some good camping spots and some good alleyways to run down. Also, we'll go over how to customize your layout for your playstyle. First things first is your map. Now, there are a lot of different maps in this version of Call of Duty, not to mention the DLC maps, and there's even more coming out. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the maps in Black Ops 3. Um, I mean, like my personal favorite maps come from Modern Warfare 2. Now, that game has some amazingly classic maps, big, sprawling, wide open areas. Um, lots of tunnels and stuff to go through, lots of closed spaces. Really challenging maps. And as I said, I'm not a huge fan of most of these maps. A perfect example of what I mean is this map right here. Um, it's way too many just boxed off areas and way too many doors. I mean, you turn a corner and there could be somebody camping right in the corner, and they'll see you before you see them. I mean, it's just a hassle. On the other hand, however, a map like this one, Fringe, this one kind of reminds me of Sniper's Alley from Modern Warfare 2. It's a They got this big long alley and alleys going along the sides. Good for rushing, good for sniping. Just an all around good map. Um, another map I'm glad that they brought back is they call it Skyjack now, but back in Call of Duty 2 it was Hijacked. Um, this was one of my favorite maps. Lots of perches, lots of alleyways, lots of open spaces. A good map to kind of fit all play styles. Now we'll talk about another map which I personally, two maps I personally cannot stand in this new DLC. That's Gauntlet and Rise. Rise is just way too massive with too many little objects just kind of thrown all over the place. It's too busy. There's too much going on, too much space. I mean, you might go 3 minutes before you even encounter an enemy. Um, of course, they've revamped Nuketown again, um, and I know it's a fan favorite, but it's a very very small map, and I've never been a huge fan of it. Now, the other map that another map I can't stand is Gauntlet. Again, it's just one of these huge maps. There's way too much going on. I know some people that fits their playstyle, but personally, for me, I just don't like it. So what we'll do is we'll dive into the standard maps because that's what most people are going to have when they first start, and we'll go with one of my personal absolute favorites, and that's Combine. And now that we've got that, we'll go ahead and start on creating a class. Now this is an example of one of your default classes that you're going to get when you first start the game. It's got the assault rifle, the KN-44. It's a decent rifle all around, handy, good for close quarters and long range. Not too much stopping power, but still pretty good. And you've got your rocket launcher and your tactical concussion grenades and your lethal frag. Um, this is a really good class for the beginner because it mainly just gets you familiar with the play style. Because there's a lot of things different in Call of Duty Black Ops 3 than any other Call of Duty that's been released. with the exception of Advanced Warfare. Now, that being said, once you've got some playtime under your belt and you've unlocked some things and you've got some levels, you'll be able to go in and unlock a few other things, like a few other weapons. And for example, I'll show you a few that I have. Um, as you can see, I've pretty much unlocked all this stuff, and I've got custom skins on it. But I've prestiged a few times, and as of right now, most of it's locked. But let's go ahead and get into your playstyle. Now, assault rifles are good for those who are just all-around players. They can run down an alley, or they can post up and keep watch on a doorway. They're also good for those long-range encounters. Now, if you're the kind of guy who's you know it, the way you play is just dependent on the situation, assault rifles are going to be the way to go for you. Don't focus too much on unlocking all the stuff and getting all the cards and making your own emblem and all this other stuff. Focus on definitely improving your playing first. Once you've gotten comfortable to the point where you're not in the top three, but you're not on the bottom anymore, then you can worry about that other stuff. Exploring out, trying to learn other play styles. Next thing we're going to talk about is SMGs, submachine guns. These are your assault weapons. These are for the people who like to run around the map, hunting people down. And the reason I say that is because, with the exception of pistols, uh, the SMG can be readied faster than any other weapon. And what I mean by readied is um, shoulder, aim down sight. Um, so that's definitely a good class for those, or good weapon for those who like to run around and hunt people down. Next is going to be your shotguns. Now, your shotguns are your up close and personal wet work devices. There's a couple different to choose from. This one's a pump action, and you got your two automatics, which don't require, the reload. Kind of does it automatically until you run out of ammo. And then there's the Argus, which is the lever action shotgun. My personal favorite. Now, if you're a shotgunner, you're not going to be post up, in some room aiming down a long alleyway. These are going to be your up close and personals. This class I only recommend if you've got some time under your belt and you're just looking to branch out. I definitely recommend getting good with the SMGs first, because if you're good with an SMG, you're going to be good with a shotgun. But make sure that you get that aim tight, because one miss because of how loud they are, even with a silencer, one miss and enemy's more than likely going to come after you. Next class is your LMGs, your light machine guns. Now these are the heavy boys. Okay, they come in and they do the damage. These are for more your spray and pray type of players. They dish out a lot of ammo. They have massive clips, and they're really fast. Now, here's the thing about the LMG though. It's got an incredibly slow reload time. Not to mention they're very heavy, so you're not going to move too fast. If you're going to go with an LMG, they're good for first-time players, but you definitely want to have a small, like a pistol, or maybe the combat knife as your sidearm, something that you can switch to if you need to relocate really fast, because again, you're going to move really slow. Final main class we're going to talk about is your sniper rifles. Now, if you need help knowing what a sniper rifle is, you need to put down the controller. Sniper rifle is pretty self-explanatory. Now they are heavyweight, so you will move slow, and your sight is really limited. Even with for example, the Dracon and the SVG 100. I'm sorry, PO6. They're not bolt action; they're semi-auto, but you're going to be limited to long range. These are not short range weapons. Now, you can, if you get good enough, you can do what's called the quick scope, where you basically aim down sight just long enough to get the auto track feature to pop up and zero you in on your target, and then fire. But that is really difficult to pull off, and I don't recommend it for a newbie. So again, these are all your classes. You have different options in each class available to you. Each one has, its boosts. Each one has its downfalls. So it's really up to you to kind of read through them, see which ones you like, you know, and see what fits you best. Now, the next thing we're going to go over is your sidearms. Obviously, you got your pistols. Pistols are good because you can get them out quick, you can aim down the sight really quick, and you can dish out some punishment. Now, they're not really long range. They're kind of medium to short. Excuse me. But again, they're really good to have. Personally, I love using the pistol. Um, I'm I'm just a huge fan of them. Now, this is your standard semi-automatic pistol, one shot per trigger pull. This is what you're going to start out with. But if you gain a few levels, you get this pretty boy right here. 3-round burst. Deadly. In any situation. Um, and then you got your full auto. Now, this, it's a really powerful pistol, and when I say powerful, I mean there's a lot of kick on this thing. It's not incredibly accurate. So you'll want to be kind of up close and personal with it. Um, Next over, we have the launchers. Obviously, this is for mainly for destroying, um, your enemy's kill streak bonus. Except for this one right here, doesn't require lock on. If you come across a bunch of enemies camping, you can let go a rocket into their little hut and do some damage. Next is going to be your melee class. Now, by default, you'll only have access to the combat knife. Now, unlike the other Black Ops, and personally, I'm not really happy that they did this. Unlike the other classes, the combat knife is just a standalone, you know, blade. That's all it is, just a blade. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, you had the ballistics knife. Now, that thing, in my opinion, was a work of genius. I loved it, and I cannot stand that they didn't bring it back. Now, last, you're going to see the special, and we're not going to worry about that right now. And you'll see these little marks, these little classified marks all over the place. Basically, we'll get to that in a second. These are just specialty weapons that you don't have access to by default. But if I can, go back to the combat knife, essentially, this weapon is a last resort. You can put it as a secondary just in case you are completely out of ammo and you have no other options, and you're using LMG and you're super slow. But to really make the combat knife an effective weapon, I would suggest only equipping the combat knife as your weapon and then doing a perk heavy class. And we'll get into what that means in just a minute. So that's pretty much all the weaponry. Again, creating a class is all about your personal playstyle. So you're gonna want to do, what fits and what gels right with you. If you're the type of guy who likes to run around, SMGs are going to be more your speed. If you're the kind of guy who likes to sit way out of the action and just kind of pick people off in the distance, sniper rifle's the way to go for you. So again, just make sure that you pick the weapon that's right for you. Now we're going to get to the perks. As you can see, there's many different perks. Each one has its own little um, benefit. And again, you just got to pick what's right for your play style. For example, if you're a hunter, you like to run around and pop people. On here, that might be good for you. First off, blind eye can't be targeted by enemies' weapons, aircrafts like race and jets and all this other good stuff. This one's a good one because it makes you invisible to their optics and they can't target you. Now, if you're not the kind of guy that really worries about that, you might want to go with Ghost. Makes you invisible to enemy UAV, and UAVs pop up all the time, and not everybody carries around a rocket launcher to destroy them. Personally, I'm a big Ghost user because I like to move around the map a lot. The second class of perks, you have a few here. Obviously, you'll recognize Scavenger. That one's pretty much been a staple since World at War, and you'll notice that there's a couple other new ones. Ante Up gives you a boost to your score streak meter, to get those score streak perks faster. Hardwired makes you immune to your enemy's tactical equipment. Your tracker, which I use this one a lot. Essentially, it just highlights your enemy's footsteps, and you can see if an enemy's passed through that recently. You can kind of hunt them down. And then there's cold-blooded, can't be targeted by ground-based score streaks, and you're invisible to thermals. I use this one a lot too. And your last one, this is mainly going to be your sound-based, like your tactical mass, your immune to flashbangs and concussions, blast suppressor, uh, mutes your thrusters, and if you don't know what the thruster is, you'll learn in just a minute. Engineer, that should be, pretty easily recognized. Just lets you see your enemy's equipment score streaks. They pop up red in your HUD. Um, Awareness, that's another classic. And Dead Silence, again, another classic, lets you be quiet. My personal favorite here is Dead Silence. That's mainly because I do like to run around and engineer. Um, I mean, when you're running around, 99% of the time, the enemy's going to be able to track you, not with a UAV, but they'll know you're coming because they'll hear your footsteps, they'll spin on you, and it'll cost you that kill. So I really do prefer Dead Silence. So there you go, and that's your perks. Next, we're going to go over your lethals. Uh, Most of these are pretty, a lot of people should recognize them except the Trip Mine. This kind of took the place of the Claymore, C4, Combat to Axe. Those are pretty, they're making a comeback as well as the Simtex. This one is relatively new. I think I may have seen it on another one. I'm not really 100%. Essentially, it just creates a little puff of fire that if your enemies are inside it, they catch fire and, burns them. Pretty nifty little device. I've used it a couple times. Not a huge fan of it, but, some people, it works for them. So, hey. C4 in this game actually has become a lot more useful, mainly because it got a proximity alarm. Now, on the older Call of Duties, if you were using C4, most people just kind of tossed it into a window and then detonated it if they knew their enemies were in there. Or they would place it near an objective, and when the AI announced that your objective is being taken, boom, they detonate it. But even still, that was a 50-50 because they might not be within range of that C4. Well, now the C4 has a little alarm, and you'll get this little notification right on your HUD that says, enemy alert or enemy proximity alert, and then you can, hit the trigger. Personally, I do use C4, but I don't use it as a bomb. I just kind of place it on the ground and leave it. And if I get the little notification, I know that okay, the enemy's near my C4. I know where they are. Um, that's kind of a really neat little trick there. So that's pretty much your lethals and your tacticals. Now, all these are common. They've all made comebacks from previous games, and they're all self-explanatory. Trophy system, which is one of my favorite tacticals, basically negates an enemy's grenades, and shock charge, which if the enemy gets within range, it stuns them. And your black hat, which is your hacker. It lets you hack score streaks and equipment. Um, Personally, my favorite here is the trophy system and the black hat. I use the black hat a lot. It's a lot more trustworthy than, say, a rocket taking out score streaks. Only thing about the black hat in this game is now you have to be aiming like dead center on whatever you're trying to hack. Otherwise, it won't really do it. It'll take forever. That's the only downside to the black hat. But if you can get it mastered, it's a really useful little tool. So that's pretty much it. Almost forgot your wild cards. Your wild cards are going to kind of change your class making rules. For example, your first three here, they'll let you take a second perk out of either the perk classes. Let you your primary gunfighter 1, 2, and 3. Let you pop on an extra attachment to your primary weapon. Danger close, you can take a second lethal. And a lot of these actually are making a comeback from Call of Duty Black Ops 2. So they shouldn't be too strange to anybody. And of course, you got you can only have up to 10 items in any class. So also keep that in mind when you're planning out your classes, because once you hit 10 items, you can't to put another one, you got to take something off. So always keep that in mind. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the game, or yeah, the map, and we'll take a look and see some of the newer features of the multiplayer for Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Free for all.
Alright, for this I'm going to go with the SMG because it's a little bit faster and lets me get around the map better. Now, for Combine,
Black
again,
Ops,
it's
liquidate
a...
all CDP assets.
hang on. Let's turn down this audio a little bit. There we go. Um, so for Combine, again, it's a pretty good sized little map. It's got a lot of wide open spaces, and here's your main arena where a lot of combat's gonna go down. But you also got these little nook and crannies where you could hide away, try to snipe a couple of enemies. Now, a lot of the features here in Black Ops 3 you're gonna recognize. Obviously, aiming down the sight. That's a feature that's always been there. You have to shoot. You know, your tactical grenades, your deadly grenades. Those are all pretty much the same. Running, and melee. Now, when it comes to melee in this one, you'll notice as I melee, I'm not actually pulling a knife. In all the other Call of Duty games, when you hit the melee switch, it would pull a knife and you'd stab your opponent. Well, in Black Ops 3, it's been replaced by the butt hit. And no matter what you're doing, or not what you're doing, what you're carrying, it's going to hit them with the butt of that weapon. Now, if you're playing hardcore, that's fine. It's still a one-hit KO. But if you're playing core, or the bonus rounds, which are not hardcore, it's going to take a couple of tries to get that done. The only way to make sure that this little butt is a lethal kill is to walk up behind an enemy and tap them right in the back of the neck. That's the only way that's going to be a one-hit kill. That being said, again, these are all standard features. You got your jump, your crouch, your prone, you know, again, all standard. Now, let's talk about some of the newer features in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. You'll notice at the beginning, I kind of levitated a little bit. You see that right there? In Black Ops 3, we now have a thruster. A thruster basically is just a little jetpack that's attached to your back and it gives you a little bit more elevation on the jump. Now, why would they do this? Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the thruster. Um, Now, if you could access like all areas of the map, like get up on rooftops and stuff, I might be a little bit more inclined to like it. But as is, I'm not a huge fan, and I'll show you why. Obviously, let's pick a good spot here. Let's see. Hmm. Well, if I come to it, I'll show you. Um, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the thruster jump. It's made things, a little bit more interesting on some of the maps, but not worth, what they've taken out. Now another new feature, and this one I am actually kind of impressed with, and I'll show you what I mean, is this right here. You can actually run along the walls, and again, this is one of those new features that's, it's kind of exciting. It's pretty cool too. I mean, you're running along the wall, and out of nowhere, you spot an enemy. Like, say, there's a bad guy right there, and you're running along the wall, and I mean, it looks pretty sweet. So, again, that's a feature I'm pretty happy with. Now, I'll show you what I mean here. Obviously, I can clear this wall. It's not that high. Heck, I should even be able to pummel it, right? But try to do it. Oh, dang, I keep. Let's try it this way. There we go. All right. Now here we've got about the same height of wall, and it's the roof, right? But bam, it stops me short. They've put the invisible wall all over the place, and again, I'm not happy with that. If you're gonna give us a thruster jump, give us a reason to use it. That's all I'm saying. But let me get off my soapbox here. Um, Now you just noticed this little thing popped up at the bottom of the screen that said gravity spikes ready. So let's go ahead and go over that. See, look right there. I should have been able to get up there. Anyway, so gravity spikes. Well, what's gravity spikes? Well, if you look in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you see this little yellow circle blinking with this weird-looking weapon in there. Well, in Call of Duty Black Ops 3, every person can pick a specialist. Well, what's a specialist? A specialist is basically an extension of your class. For example, the guy I'm playing as right now, he's called Ruin, and every specialist has a specialist ability that you can choose from. For example, Ruin has two, gravity spikes, and um, the name of the other one escapes me, but it lets you run really fast, basically. And to activate them, you just hit the L1 and R1 buttons on the PS4, or if you're playing the Xbox, the right button and the left button, and you hit them at the same time. And it activates that little neat trick right there. Now you'll see a black area around me. Now what Gravity Spikes does is it emits a shockwave that kills anyone around you, which is pretty useful if you walk into a little hornet's nest, and that's a feature of the new Black Ops here that I really do like because it adds that element of customization to your class. So now that we've kind of gone over the basics, we still have a few minutes left. So we'll go over a couple things on Combine. Now, if you go back here, you'll notice there's a lot of rocks, some plants on the ground, some stones. If you make it to this side of the map and your spawn's on the other side, it's a good place to just kind of lay low and kind of pick enemies off. You know, it's got a pretty good view back here of all the different alleyways. It's a pretty good little place to just kind of sit until you know the heat dies down and you can start running again. Next place we're going to talk about on Combine is right here, inside the little offices, if you will. This little room right here is a pretty good little vantage point. It gives you access all the way across, and you'll get to see some enemies popping in and out there. And up here, again, gives you access straight to the other side. Of course, you can't see nothing else that's going on, but might be worth it. Now, a lot of people, you'll see them hiding under here. For me, this is not a great place to hide, and I'll tell you why. That right there, okay? This little area, you'll get enemies coming in and out, and they can see you. Here, say you're an enemy. Bam, I got you. You're dead. And say you're down here, and you're focused on, killing who's ever up here, over here. You're pretty much boned. So I'm not a huge fan of this little spot right here. Oh, silly me, I forgot one other feature. Now, in Black Ops 1 and 2, there was this little thing where if you were running and you held the crouch button, you do this little leap dive thing, and you'd go prone. Well, in Black Ops 3, they've actually introduced what I like to call the G slide. Okay, lets you slide along the ground. Now, this actually I do like because, say, there's an enemy around the corner over there, you just bam, doesn't even see, too quick for him. So I am a huge fan of this little feature right here. You know, uh, anyway, so let's move on. Next spot I want to talk to you about is going to be this room right here. A lot of people like to camp in this room. They like to sit in this corner right here and, see enemies coming from back there through here and they'll try to get some quick snipe moves. I'm not a huge fan of this room. It's really small and a grenade placed in the right place, I mean, you're pretty much done for. Not a great place. to hang out and camp. But it is what it is. And this is the second area I want to talk to you about. You see a lot of people hanging out right here, you know, getting kills, hitting people on the walls. I'm not a huge fan of this place either because it's way too exposed right here. But when it comes to here, this little spot right
Good
here,
luck running down.
um, you can place a shock charge or a trip mine, just kind of go prone, and you can pop people coming across over there. If you're feeling risky, you can stick your head out and get some enemies there. Obviously, there's a few other places, like right here. You can come into this truck, pop enemies off coming right there, and over here you can just kind of go prone, pop enemies coming along that alley. That's pretty much all there is to that. Um, and that's Combine. That's all the best places to snipe on Combine.
One shot, one kill. Won't even hear it coming.
And that's pretty much it for today. Just a basic tutorial on what to do, how to do, and when to do. Again, there will be other videos, where I kind of go over the other maps and best spots to run through, best spots to be cautious, best spots to camp. We might even revisit a couple from time to time. But again, this is just episode one. For those of you who have sat through the whole thing, I do appreciate it. And I do want to thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, I'll see you on a couple of the other videos. Even the section on map glitches, little hidden spots. And the main reason I wanted to do that is because of those few people who know about them. They'd kind of like to take advantage of them. So I want to get it out there about all these spots and where they are, so that you can easily identify them and handle these people who take advantage of that. So that being said, there's obviously a few other things that we'll have to go over, but I think that's good enough for now. And I do want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching through the whole video. And y'all have a great evening.